Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Well, let me start this meeting. First of all, thank you guys for accepting this, and make a short introduction about, like, even if I already sent you in the email, a short introduction about what is the conservatory in Buenos Aires. I don't know, maybe you know some of the cats down there, like Ernesto Joros, and the people that is leading the jazz school right now in Buenos Aires. It's a government school, so that's why we don't have like a budget like for pay you for this kind of stuff. So we definitely are more than thankful that you accept this. And this is part of a project, right? That we built through the year. Is like the last year of the career education. When we do some interview or we do like a project to share with all the musicians in the career, and it could be a master class or it could be an interview, some material that works and like helps everybody like to still growing up, you know, and like still develop about their like creativity and stuff. So that's why we decided to make or to try to make an interview with you exactly in that point of education, you know, like how education is like changing and how education is like killing the old school, old-fashioned ways to teach, you know, and to learn. So once again, very thankful you are here, and like in behalf of my colleagues and partners, musicians, we're very honored to have you here. How did you start to unblock like your creativity, like getting yourself out of all those fears, you know, and blockings that like was not how do you say, was making you like to not be yourself in 100%?
Right, sure. You know, in music, I was tended to be 100% myself. It's a strange thing because it's not like I had a big problem being myself when I played, but I could figure out why everyone else wasn't being themselves. Now, I don't know why, because it wasn't something I was thinking about or looking for, but I could see what other people were blocking themselves. And the way I could identify with it is that I might be blocking myself in the same way, but in life, not in music. Because somehow I grew up with it's funny, I didn't think it was even a healthy relationship to the music. I really didn't care that much. I liked to play. I liked how it made me feel. And I liked how other people treated me when I played music, you know? And it was about as simple as that. And when I got to school and I started to feel other similarly talented people, I got depressed because I thought, wow, I thought on the strength of this music thing, I'm better than everybody, you know. I mean, I didn't want to be better than everybody, but everybody thought I was better than everybody because I was playing this music on this level at that time, you know.
Yeah.
So I didn't really take it that seriously. So when I got to college, that idea was horrible. I felt like, oh, you're not really committed. You're not really into it. You know, you've just been coasting, you know. And the first college I went to, it was horrible. I mean, it was almost suicidal. Everybody was into it, and I really wasn't into it. But then when I went to Berkeley, I found there were a lot of people at Berkeley that also didn't know what they were doing there. They didn't know, you know, well, I guess I'm going to do this or that, you know. Of course, those people ended up being rock musicians, you know, but before that, they thought they might play jazz or this or that. So they were confused. I said, great, this is a better crowd for me, you know, to hang out with. They're confused. So only while I was in college did I start to block myself a little bit, because I thought it was important to sound as good or better than everyone else.
Right.
And I would get depressed if I sounded worse than somebody. If somebody was better than me, since I had put all my eggs in one basket, I am a worthy person because I play the way I play. Well, the only problem with that is that if someone plays better, then you're suddenly not worthy at all, you know? So the ego block is one of the big blocks. And now a lot of people have. They try to play as good as other people, or they want to play better than everybody. And they certainly try to avoid playing worse than everybody, because it all has to do with how they feel about themselves. You understand? Not just, I am a great person, but I don't play well. It's very hard to find a musician that'll say, I love myself, but I don't play well. You know, you really can't find somebody. If they are a musician, they don't love themselves precisely because they don't play well. There may not be another reason to not love themselves, but that's not a reason to not love yourself either. You follow me?
Yeah, I follow you.
Okay, because I know the English thing, and
No,
the sentences start to do this. So, so just tell me if I need to clarify something. So I know a little bit about that when it came to music, but mostly my blocks were in life, where I cared too much what a result was going to be, that I ruined myself worrying about that result. You know, things that you do in music. So eventually I found through a few different sources, one through a spiritual source, which I never talk about specifically. It's a private kind of, it's not private, it's available to everyone, but it's the kind of thing that they don't really advertise themselves, and they don't like people going out and say, oh, I'm in this thing, and you know, and oh, and it's great, and this guru is great, because the next week they might find you in a whorehouse. Who knows? You know, and then you went to this place.
Yeah.
So you know, but I found a teacher, a guru, and I began to learn Kashmir Shaivism, which is really Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever, Jainism, all very early pre-Christian faiths. And they were a lot more scientific. They talked about the mind and blocks in the mind. In fact, they had an ancient Sanskrit word for it, samskaras, to actually identify that in the mind thousands of years ago is remarkable, when you think that the Western world thought they just discovered it at the turn of the 20th century, you know, with people like, you know, Jung and you know, the cat, so they talked about patterns, and because the spirituality of those things is that we are perfect beings. We have perfect perception, breath, everything is perfect. But because we have a mind, we create problems in our mind. Now, they could be created for us. You could be living in Afghanistan now, and you could be certain that you have problems. And they could be very real problems. But the training of the mind, and to a degree, we're all on this path, but I'm very consciously on this path, is how can I get rid of the duality of good day, bad day? How do I get rid of the duality of a good solo, a bad solo? Because the desire to play a good solo, if you're a musician, you'll probably know this, the desire to play a good solo sometimes creates a bad solo.
Definitely.
Right. Well, that's human nature. So effortless mastery was built on that one principle. I would be teaching in the early days, and I'd say, I only taught because somebody wanted to learn from me and paid me money. I didn't care about teaching. But when I taught, I commented on something no one else ever commented on. Guys playing, and I go, oh, wait, right there, you started to try. They went, what? Because we're talking about between 30 and 40 years ago. Nobody talks about that in music. If you played well, then you solved all of life's problems in everybody else's eyes. And if you didn't play well, you weren't worth very much. I mean, you were okay, or you're a nice guy, but you know. So the idea that, what was this? I was trying. Well, yes, I did start trying right there. But how did you know that? I said, well, I don't know exactly. But now I know what I'm seeing. It's like I see it more than hear it, but you can hear it too. And then I started to say, but at that moment, you were playing better until that moment. So I started to improvise. Really, I hadn't studied it. Ways of not trying. Ways of going into what I eventually called the space.
Wow.
The space in the book is the place without thoughts. Because in the space, there's no past and there's no future. There's just this moment. And that's why the breath is crucial, or one of the best ways to get into the space is to follow your own breath, because you're breathing always in the moment. You're not breathing in the future, and you're not breathing in the past. So every time you switch your mind to your breath, you're instantly in the moment. And that repeated practice is then brought to the instrument. So you're about to play, and I'm sure you know this feeling. You anticipate playing, and without realizing it or not, you hope you play well.
Mm.
So you're not in the present. You're in the future, because you haven't started to play yet. So why would you even think about what's going to happen the next minute? It only inhibits the next minute. So I would teach them, go into the space and touch the instrument, and whatever instrument it is. And if you lose the space, put the instrument down. That's how you train your mind. In fact, putting the instrument down is one of the strongest aspects of it. Because when you start to get attached, of course, you'd rather be attached, because that's your old samskara. That's your old thinking, right?
Got you. Mm-hmm.
But against your own intuition, counterintuitively, you put the instrument down. That creates this creative tension. Now that you can put the instrument down, if you're not in the space, now it almost feels like the instrument wants you. Since you don't want the instrument so badly, it almost feels like the instrument wants you and will play better to keep you on it. I mean, it starts to feel like that. However, when you jump in and you start to make it better, you put the instrument down. That's a practice just for effortless mastery. It's obviously not practical if you're on a gig or at a session, or even wherever you care what people think. But if you don't care what people think, you're, and you come back.
Yeah.
And removing the past and the future removes the blocks not only from your playing, almost just as importantly, it removes the blocks from your practicing. Because the same ego problem that blocks the full joy of playing is the problem that blocks the concentration of quiet, mentally quiet while you practice. Instead, you're thinking about all the things you got to practice, and you're not even present for the thing you are practicing. And then it doesn't get better because you're not really getting into it. But then when you're playing, that same ego is expecting to hear it, and then you go looking for it. So you see, ego, you might say, ruins your playing and just seriously disrupts your practicing.
Great. Great. So it's like you're explaining like kind of a way like of to be like the 0 point or like start in that
Be
moment,
like a tree,
that very present.
a tree that plays a piano.
Beautiful.
Or what I like to call, and it's the title of my new book, but not quite, but become the instrument that plays the instrument. That means you don't have all this ego stuff, because you're just there to play or to enter new data into this instrument so that when it plays new stuff. And the name of the new book, I don't know if we had shared that with you, it's just coming out now, it's called Becoming the Instrument.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. We
Might
were
really
reading
call it
about it.
the instrument that plays the instrument. I don't know. That is kind of a cool title too. But then it's called Lessons of Self-Mastery from Music to Life. So what's happening is that the lessons I learned that I'm sharing with you now, I've learned them through music, yet they relate to all of life. And that had happened so much that I decided it was time to write a new book and actually put in the relevancy to the rest of life. Yeah, these are perfect lessons, but if you try them in the boardroom or in your office or on the golf course or with your wife, you know, because so many aspects. And because what happened before I ever meant that, I would just gave this musical liberation information in Effortless Mastery, the book, how to liberate yourself musically. But then I get as much emails saying that it changed their life, not just their music. I probably got most of the emails, and Vivian will see too, it's typical now, that it seems to change a person's life. So then I realized what I kind of knew, but I said, these principles are rock solid. They will work. We tried them out on the game board of a musical instrument or composing. They will work. So they're in this next book. Try this, even though it was found out through a musician perfecting himself and his music. Try this in your marriage. Try this in your office, you know? So the next book is, for that reason, much wider. And it's about self-mastery. It's learning how to it's not really learning how to control things. In other words, you don't learn to not think about how good you play. You learn to focus on something else. And when you focus on one thing, the area that you were focusing on goes dark. It no longer exists. Just one quick little example of that. If you focus all your attention right now on your right arm, it just means if you're becoming aware of anything, you're aware that you have a right arm. And then you feel a slight buzzing in that arm. It's the buzz because you just took your attention, put it in there, and turned the light on. So there it is. You feel your right arm?
Yeah.
And while you really focus on that, the left arm disappears.
Great.
Right. So if I focus on this moment, the future disappears. If I focus on this moment, the past disappears. It doesn't matter how badly I played yesterday or how much I seek to play well today. In this moment, I'm connected. And that place has only certain qualities like self-esteem, self-love, self-acceptance. You don't have the power to not accept what you're playing from the space. You only have the power to accept what you're playing from the space. So the practice is not even as much at the instrument as it is in the mind, how to get into the space. Then you could touch an instrument, or you could touch a computer, or you could touch a spouse, or you could hug your kids, or you could fill out a report, and you're in a masterful state of mind to be there, to do the best job, and to care the least about whether you're doing the best job or not. Because caring as we said before, gets in the way of doing. That's a hard one for people. Because if you are a musician, you really care that you're a good musician. If you're a middle-level manager, you really care that everybody likes your work, especially the people over you. And yet from the space, there is no caring, there is just doing. And that really satisfies what the ego wanted. You say, wow, I was in the space and I did great work. The ego says, great, I want us to be, now if you feel a little ripped off because nobody said you did great work, but from the space, you don't care. So the problems come when you're in your conscious mind, all these considerations, all these priorities. You know, it's like amazing anybody can get up off the couch with all these priorities they have in their mind, you know? So you practice getting into the space, you become lighter because you're thinking about less things. And you become lighter because you expect less. You know what you want. You don't have to think about it every day. You know what your goals are. You don't have to think about them every day. Because if you think ahead to your goals, then you're going to say, I wonder if I'll ever reach my goals. And then you may feel depressed because you don't know if you're going to reach your goals. But then it takes away your taste for working on something today, because nobody's giving you the whole answer. Oh no, you work on stuff today and you'll be a rich and famous musician in 5 years. You know, no, you have no idea. Now, can you settle down and do a little work, which might actually affect your future?
Yes.
That's the odd thing. If you get in the moment, you'll be doing things that builds a future because the possibility is there, because of the chops you're building, or your rhythm, or your time, or your melody, or your creativity. That gives you a better chance. Sitting around pondering your future, you don't do anything, and that actually leads to, you know, probably the future that you're afraid of. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, amazing, amazing. So it's kind of like having a meditation with an instrument, or in your day life, like all day, right?
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I don't think of it as meditation because things become like institutions, you know? Like the word jazz used to stand for, many years ago, a kind of liberation. Liberation from the strictness of classical music. You know, you could free to interpret the music the way you want. You know, it was even a liberation from morality, because a lot of morality, society morality, which was very hypocritical. And somehow those jazz musicians knew something that was true, you know, and they behaved. It wasn't a big difference if you go back to the 40s or whatever. It wasn't a big difference between the mentality of a bebop musician or a swing musician before that and a mafia guy. They both knew that society was full of shit.
Absolutely, yeah.
They both knew that the government was just a big hypocritical imposter of good people. And they knew that, you know, you had to have a power to get through in this world. So mafia had their way. Jazz musicians had their way. When they played, they reigned over everybody who listened. People wanted to help them. People wanted to get them out of jail. People wanted to, you know, lift them up. That was their power. So music was a very countercultural thing. But everything that's done always goes from this feeling of freedom to responsibility. And then that word has baggage. If I say play some jazz, you don't think, great, now I can go out and sleep with whoever I want. Which is what the word used to mean. You think, oh no, I have to see if my chord skill's good. Are these chords good? Am my rhythm, you know, even if you're thinking clearly about it, am I going to sound enough like Herbie Hancock, or is my teacher going to like it? So that's not freedom. So if I say the word jazz, you don't feel free, you feel responsibility. Same thing with the word bebop. Bebop was actually a liberation from the previous music. Man, we don't want to go bop 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 bo da 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 ba da bop bop bo da da ba da bop bop. We want to go bo da 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 ba ba da ba da bo beep ba da bo ba da ba da bo da bo da ba da ba da ba da. And when they heard that, you know, Louis Armstrong hated it. Right? At least he was on record of hating it. You know, this stuff's never going to go anywhere. It loses the public, you know.
Yeah.
So now bebop is like prison.
Definitely, yes.
It either
Super
is bebop or it's not bebop. So going back to my point, which was not even that, the word meditation now has baggage to me. So I might sit comfortably with a light sense of the fact that I'm breathing all day. But if I call it meditation, then I suddenly can't do it. I mean, I can do it for a little while, but it's that same lame way of meditating. Okay, I'm going to meditate now.
Great.
You know, how do I keep those thoughts out? Oh, wait a minute. All right, start with the breath. Okay, now. And of course, many times your intention to meditate turns out to be you just sit there thinking about something longer than you ever intended to. You think about your problems. So I've dropped the word meditation.
Right.
I don't think I can change my life, but I can always take a break and watch myself breathe. 20 seconds, 30 seconds. That, I believe, is the new key. And it does get taught at in the new book. If you can just say, I'm dropping what I'm concerned about for 20 seconds, I'm just going to watch myself breathe, not because it's a spiritual thing or a thing from psychiatry or psychology, but because I am breathing. Whether I watch myself or not, I'm breathing. You're breathing right now. So I'm just going to drop in and watch it do it for 20 seconds. Let's do that all together. Just watch the fact that you do breathe. Go. And I imagine that's something like 20 seconds, so you can stop. Now, it's funny because we said stop, you don't want to stop. When you see this video, you'll see that you're in a different place than you are. And because it was so short, you were free to go all the way into it. And these little moments pull you out of the jungle of your mind, all these things you're trying to get done, or that you hope that they turn out. And it pulls you right into this moment. And if you do it over and over again, whenever you think of it, you start to gain the power over whether or not you have to think about this or that. Because it's what you're thinking about that's ruining the day. In many, many cases. If your students have a test tomorrow and they worry about it, there's a difference between preparing for it and worrying about it. So worrying about it might actually make you not calm enough to prepare for it, because you already think you're not going to do good or whatever. You see what I mean? So mastering the ability to stay in the moment is probably one of the most powerful things a human can do. Everything gets better. I could give you like a dozen situations that then transform into what you want when you go into the space. But basically, everything gets better when you let it go, even just for a moment, and you come back to something that's actually essential in your life. And the funny thing, all the stuff you think about is not essential. You're only a musician because you want to be. You're not a musician because anybody needs you to be one. You know, maybe we need heart surgeons. I don't know. Maybe we need carpenters for to rebuild all the countries that are being ruined by climate change. But we don't particularly need more musicians. You're a musician because you want to be. But you're a breather because you have to be. So breathing is much more essential than playing music, obviously. No matter what you think of breathing, if you stop doing it, in less than a minute, you'd stop caring about music, and you'd only care about being able to breathe again.
Of course.
Right.
Right.
And then that takes the pressure off of music. Hey, man, I'm breathing. I got everything I need. If you can get to that, that's a incredibly happy life. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. Keep working on it. I'd like to find that total, the same contentment I have on music, because if you see me play, all you see is contentment. The good stuff, the bad stuff, the right stuff, the mistakes, they're all amusing. Amusing. They wouldn't be afraid to fail somewhere, which means they wouldn't be afraid to take actions. Because the only thing that stops you from taking an action is you're worried about the result. So you see, there's a self-mastery principle that translates from music, my musical experience, to a life experience. When you're improvising, you're making choices. You don't question your choices. It ruins the solo, right? If you start questioning yourself, you're buried, dead and buried. So you have to accept what you're playing without thought, whether it is good or bad. You know how they say unconditional love? It's a very popular phrase, right? But then if you do badly, you don't love yourself. If you lose your job, you don't love yourself. If you don't play good, you don't love yourself, right? So therefore your love is not unconditional. It's conditioned on the fact that you do well, that you play good. So that still leaves this window you can fall out and fall many stories down onto the street. I could fail and play bad music. That's not the end of the world, but then you don't love yourself. That's a bad thing. So if you learn to love yourself when you play good or bad, that's a lot closer to what you would call unconditional love. No conditions to my love.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kenny. That was transforming, I must say.
Great.
I will be glad to meet you in person sometimes. You guys are in New York, right? You teaching in?
Well, I'm in Boston, and I'm in Boston most of the time.
Yeah. Are you
Vivian
teaching
in Brooklyn most of the time.
in Berkeley, right? Yeah. Great.
Yeah,
great.
we have the Effortless Mastery Institute, which we're very proud of.
Oh yes, of course.
Everything is about, because everything in the other courses, whether they know it or not, are all about transforming what you just said. And that transforming leads to being a much more profound musician.
Absolutely. And when is this new book coming on?
The hard release is January 11th. We had a soft launch last week in Fairfield University, which was very nice.
Great.
In fact, maybe we want to have this video, Viv. I think it makes a lot of very good cases for what this book is that the last book was not. Now that I'm hearing myself talk, I'm thinking, this is what I would have liked to said in Fairfield.
Yes, I can send this video to you if you. Yes,
you might pull parts of it out, and it explains exactly what this book does.
Definitely.
And we've been doing online courses.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know if-
nice. We didn't know about that.
So you don't have to go to Berkeley anymore to study with me. I mean, not
That's
that you
great.
shouldn't go to Berkeley, you should. But if someone says, I just want to get what Kenny Werner's teaching, but I have to go to whole school for that. And people are going here, are lucky, it's there with their, they can study with me.
Mm-hmm.
But Vivian and I started, this is our second course now. First course was over the summer. It was called Living Effortless Mastery. And it's on Zoom, so you could be anywhere. And I think nearly 100%, you have to say 95%. I think there was one or two people that they weren't not content with the course, but they weren't content with themselves. So nearly 100% of the people said it was life-changing. So we're going to offer that again, I guess, I think it'll just work out in the summer or in May or definitely after May,
Mm-hmm.
June. And that one is the big one because it makes you practice this transformation so that you can be personally more successful in anything, but certainly everybody that's there, it's in music. And now we can get right to it. The one we're doing right now is my own system for harmony. And I used to call it random harmony, but now we're calling it in the course unlimited harmony. So for 10 weeks, people are with me and I'm showing them a system for putting any kind of surprising, sparkling, incredibly interesting progression together, right? And people are surprised that they can instantly write something using this system that they don't in fact totally hear yet, but they went, wow, that's how you get that? It's a system I came up with that, I showed it to the composition department, but somebody should have reached out and said, hey, we have to have this course, because instead I visit a lot of harmony courses of teachers that get it and want me to, kind of yearly show them this thing, and every once in a while I'll just show it to whoever I'm with, but it's very powerful. And we're in the middle of that course. It's called Unlimited Harmony.
Unlimited Harmony. Wow, that
Yeah.
sounds very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think you pretty much answered all the ideas we had in mind to ask you, and also how to put it in practice. That will be like the next step. Yeah, definitely.
The first step is to be able to touch the instrument from the space. The next step is to be able to move around the instrument and not react to what choices the hands make, or even the voice. Work with a lot of vocalists. And you know how you hurt yourself as a vocalist? You sing trying to be somebody else.
Wow.
You sing trying to satisfy someone else. Because I think a vocalist that sings for their own pleasure, which is still the strongest reason to play music. A singer that sings to get herself off or himself off, to intoxicate themselves, could never hurt themselves. It's only people, and on the instrument too. One of my sayings is, you could never hurt yourself playing an instrument. You can only hurt yourself trying to play an instrument. So. And then the third step is playing things you know, but with you're trusting your body to play it. You don't have to be part of it. Then the fourth step is a lifelong practice of how to practice something without leaving the space, so that by the time you can play it, you've mastered it. Because anything you can play from the space is mastery. When you think about it, if you played Three Blind Mice, da 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 da, and you played it that easily, you're a master of that song. And you could have been eating with the other hand and you could have played that song. Or you come in on the phone and just doodling. Da, da, da. Yeah, so I'm free on September 17th. Da, da, da. So the fourth step is taking new or at least material that you never mastered. See, a lot of reason musicians and music students feel bad about themselves is because they don't play with that level of freedom that they see other people play. And they think that they don't have that level of freedom. Now, if that level of freedom is psychological, in other words, because you're trying to be a better player, you're getting stuck, you know, like that person that tried and then they didn't play as well, you know. But the other very good reason that you're not playing as free as you want is a lack of mastery of the elements of music, rhythm, harmony, and melody. That's why I'm putting a course on harmony so that it becomes as easy as possible to understand the most complex harmonies. It's actually a very easy way. And then I think I'll be doing one for melody, lines. At some point, I'll be doing one for rhythm. And allowing people to sharpen their tools, when you're able to play intelligently, but you don't have to work too hard, it starts to feel really good, right?
Like a kid, like, you know, they don't wonder about
Yeah.
what are there.
Yeah, well, when you analyze the people that you idolize, I like that, right? What you don't always overlook is the fact is that the reason they're always on that level is because that's muscle memory. That's what the body plays. That's why they don't sound less like that on another day. Even if you talk to them, they said, "Oh, I suck tonight." You go, "Really?" What? Because there's so much muscle memory in place that the worst they could ever play is amazing. You know, the fourth step is about going past the conscious mind and developing a muscle memory for rhythm or harmony or melody or anything else you want to do.
Well, that's great. That's great. Kenny, thank you
Sorry,
very much.
You said the word step, so we took you there. Yeah, you're welcome.
The what? Sorry, I didn't listen.
I said you took me on another journey when you said the first step, and then I found myself telling you what the 4 steps were. But
that is amazing.
Anyway,
yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I will definitely start.
Maybe the trick is I haven't even had coffee yet. Wow. Because the coffee place is 3 blocks away, and I just woke up 15 minutes ago. So maybe that's the way to do it.
Definitely.
I take a nap before every class I come in. Oh yeah, right. You know.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm gonna send you this video and like let you know all the process we'll have also with this interview and how we do share with our colleagues musicians, and inform them also about all these courses you're giving. That's gonna be
for that. They should get in touch with Vivian. Actually, do you want to give them an email, Viv?
Of course. And thank you, Vivian, of course, for setting this up. And
you have my email.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely. And that's it, guys. I think we just I'm running out of questions, and I don't feel like we should.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good. I'm gonna go get coffee.
So thank you, Kenny. I really hope to see you personally sometime. And
you're welcome.
We'll be there in the courses then.
That's great, man. I hope so.
Yeah.
All right, Viv, I'll see you around
yeah, see you later.
Noon or so. Okay.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Bye, Vivian. Bye, Kenny.